I'm so blessed to have Mr. Ronnie Evans, Ebony Worthing coat of 1964, but his DNA came out of Third Ward, and I'm so blessed to have him, man. And some of the things that Ronnie had accomplished. Ronnie, you first of all, how you doing now, Ronnie? Hold on, wait a minute. Let's start all over. My car got to start. Okay, let's start it all over again. All right, everybody. I'm live with Mr. Ronnie Evans, who is a legendary by himself, and so much he have done and contribute not only to Sunnyside but to HISD, and Ronnie being DNA coming out of Third Ward, and his parents moved out to Sunnyside, and so many parents did in the late 50s. And because the opportunity for Sunnyside was so available during that time, and Ronnie and he had this, and he graduated out of Worthing in 1964. And Ronnie, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Booty.
And I hold it for you, baby, because you're the man. The man.
All right.
And I see here, Ronnie, not only that you graduated from Worthing, but then later on you became the principal of Worthing too, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. That is correct. In 1995, I was there as principal from 1995 to 2002.
And you graduated from Worthing in what?
1964.
And kind of give us, because there's so much history that came out of Ebony Worthing. And people, when they always think about Worthing, they always think about track and baseball, man. And so much track, the people who came out of Worthing. And then they also think about basketball. And then the most part that people don't really recognize a lot about Worthing is the academics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, before the academics, I want to talk about my brother.
Okay, come on, talk.
There's an article, you can look it up, the Houston Chronicle, August 16th of 2012.
Uh-huh.
And it talked about my brother.
And what's your brother's name?
His name was Johnny Evans.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Blackshear. He went to Miller. He graduated from Worthing. Went to Texas Southern. He was a veteran of the U.S. Navy, serving in Southeast Asia, the Republic of Vietnam. Well, my brother was a fighter. Johnny was a world-class athlete, having attained the #1 ranking in the world as a lightweight. His amateur record was 85 wins and 1 defeat, a defeat he later avenged. His professional record was 19-0. So he was quite a guy, and you talked about academics. He was super smart. He was the first black train ticket agent in the South, and he moved on to become an engineer for Union Pacific Railways, where he retired because of illness in 1987. But Johnny also played football for Worthing. But we missed 150 from Jack Yates, who's on the 58 team with Pastor Dixon, and that was my oldest brother, Albert. Albert played football at Jack Yates, and he graduated from Jack Yates. My brother Richard graduated from Jack Yates. My mother was a Ryan cadet. My daddy played a receiver for Jack Yates.
But during them times there, Ronnie, it wasn't no Worthing. So it wasn't that many black people living in Sunnyside from Third Ward during them days. So Jack Yates was the only school they really had to go to until 1958 when they built Worthing.
Sunnyside was the jungle.
Well, then we did an article on Sunnyside. And Sunnyside was once of Sunnyside, Texas. So we did an article on Sunnyside, and we even talked about Mr. Ebony Worthing being a landlord out there and having all the property out there in Sunnyside. Yep, in fact, Mr. Ebony Worthing, the property that Worthing is on, the original Worthing on Belford, was Mr. Ebony Worthing money and his property that because Jack Yates, this is the history that we have seen on YouTube and Facebook, that Mr. Ebony Worthing, they've been giving scholarships away ever since the 1950s. Right. The Worthing scholarships.
Well, Mr. Worthing's secretary was a lady named Bess Harper, who was also a member of Antioch Baptist Church. She took me under her wing. She and my grandmother were best of friends. And when she died, she left me some of Ebony Worthing's property. That I owned some of Ebony Worthing's property out in Sunnyside, which was gifted to me by Bess Harper, who was my grandmother Addie Evans' best friend.
You know, and we look at this, Mr. Worthing, because see, this is the thing that Mr. Worthing told all the ministers out there in Sunnyside, because HISD said they didn't have enough money to build 2 black schools. And they had to put so much money in the Jack Yates over there at 3703 Sampson to be a state-of-the-art school. And they was anticipating all the people in Sunnyside would still go over there to 3rd Ward to go to school. Right. But Mr. Worthing seen that all of his tenants and their kids had to catch that bus to go way to 3rd Ward to get their high school diploma.
Well, not just Mr. Worthing, but Leona Helmsley, the Queen of Mean. She owns the property across the street from Worthing to this day.
And we're talking about Worthing where it is now. And we're talking about Worthing, where its original location on Belford, where Christopher Alex is today.
Yeah. Right. Well, that what they're doing is what they're gentrifying. All of that the same way they're doing now. Ryan barely has Ryan's name on there. They have a Ryan Medical School. Jimmy Ryan, James D. Ryan, was my mother's principal and father's principal.
That's right.
But you can barely see the name Ryan on that school. You can barely see the name Crispus Attucks on Attucks School because they say it's a medical magnet, but the blacks are not in it. They say Ryan is a medical magnet, but the blacks are not in it. So what they're doing, Carnegie was in Sunnyside.
That's right.
Right down the street from Worthing.
Yeah.
Now they moved Carnegie out of Sunnyside downtown.
Wow. Now, you know, you're saying a lot of good stuff there, Mr. Evans. And, you know, and I know you know because you was part of HISD history and worked with HISD for years. And where is this place that we're talking about they moved out of Sun? And when we're talking about Worthing, identify what Worthing is. The Worthing on Belford or the Worthing on Reed Road?
Well, the one on Reed Road now.
Okay.
The one on Belford is still there, but it's Crispus Attucks, but it's some kind of Crispus Attucks Medical something. They've even added another name on Worthing, and I can't think of what it is.
Okay, so therefore, you know, and it's so sad because we're seeing Worthing as we once knew it when you went there on Reed Road, and now they got Worthing going towards Scott Street now.
Right.
So, you know, all of this is going back to what me and Pastor Dixon and Mr. Tickner was saying. They are trying to delete most of our black history, y'all.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
they
right.
are.
That's right.
And we got to do whatever we got to do, just like they eliminated the black history of bringing Coach Patterson football field and some of the things. And they even did Reverend Dixon and Mr. Tickner. They don't have no crimson and gold over at school now. So they're trying to delete our colors, but they're not telling us they deleting it, but they showing us they deleting it.
Yeah, the same way they added the color black.
That's right.
To Worthing's colors.
That's right.
Worthing's school colors originally were Kelly green and gold.
That's right.
And now it's forest green and gold and black.
You know.
So the legacy is gone. So what they're trying to do now is discredit people who are trying to do something. My oldest son, Michael, graduated from Madison in 1984. He is now the mayor of a town of about 150,000 people. 90% are white.
You know, I get to saying this here, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad to be here with you, Mr. Ronnie Evans, and to know that I was raised up with you and being a good friend of yours. And people out there in Madison, Marlins, I want you to understand this, that Ronnie Evans son. I want you to talk about this guy is tremendous. He is a mayor of a predominant white city.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's not only a mayor, but he's one of the finest ministers
That's right.
out there.
That's right.
And I want you to see this. I want you to hear it. And one day that Mr. Ronnie and Mr. Tigner and even Minister Dixon will get a chance to go out. Where your son's church at? And what's the name of the city that he's the mayor?
Mansfield, Texas.
Kind of explain to you, what is Mansfield, Texas?
Well, if you know Arlington, Texas, and where Jerry Jones Stadium is, on one side of the street is Arlington, the other side of the street is Mansfield.
So
Oh,
see, this is some history, y'all.
Just like Bel Air and Houston.
yeah.
So, in other words, the name of the city is called what?
Mansfield.
Mansfield is a part of Arlington.
Right. It was settled by slaves, but taken over by whites, until he became the first school board president. Well, he became the first mayor. My son Michael became in 130 years.
130 years
130
of the history
years.
of Mansfield.
Right.
He became the first black mayor.
Right.
And then he also a graduate of the Madison Marlins.
Yeah.
And I know my good friend out there, he looks at a little our video, Coach Finney, the police chief.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Madison.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And
And Dick Dollar. And what year did your son, and I got another friend out there, Darryl Crawford, my son even finished from Madison.
Yeah.
So Madison,
In
yeah.
84.
You see,
1984.
Madison is a DNA like Worthing is to Yates.
That's right.
Madison is a DNA that consists of Worthing and Yates.
Yeah, because Madison was all white at one time.
When they built the school in 1965, it was an all-white school. All of them, both of them, they built them at the same time, Madison and Sterling. And they were all white schools when they built them. It's just in 68 they integrated them, and black started moving out in Southpaw, and then black started moving out there in Harlem Clark, and the rest of it is history. But we want to talk about your son, man, because this guy, man, the church is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the way he speaks on YouTube, you wouldn't think he from Texas. No less than Houston.
Well,
And him being a minister, man, it's a remarkable. Tell us one about him.
Well, he always gives kudos to Houston and Sunnyside, and to my grandparents who lived in Third Ward.
And what's his name again?
Michael Evans.
Michael Evans.
Pastor Dixon is just like a brother to me, because he hung out at my grandmother's house with my brother, with my brother. So people like Pastor Dixon, Pastor Don Dixon, that is, we watched them, and being younger, they didn't let us do the things that a lot of the older people let children do now. We couldn't cuss around them.
Right.
So in other words, you had respect for the older generation.
We had respect for them because we had no choice.
Because they would go upside our head. And we couldn't tell our parents because we would catch another whooping. Because we knew we were wrong.
Right.
They didn't go upside our head for no reason at all. They had a reason to do it.
Right.
Which they used to call discipline.
That's right.
And that's what we don't have today, is that discipline.
Right, my brother Albert, I thought he'd lose his mind sometime.
And to see that to see your son Michael, how his career just took off.
Oh, yes,
And what did he wind up going to college at, Mr. Edmonds?
University of Texas at Arlington, and he got his master's at TCU, and he got his doctorate at Baylor.
Wow, that's some paper there, partner. And then he got how long was he a minister? How long had he been a minister up there in Arlington, out there in Mansfield?
He went there as he really went there doing church. He was a deacon at the church, and then he became a minister, and then the pastor took sick, and then he became the pastor of the church, and now the church has grown from 150 to 3,000.
Wow. When he took over that church in Mansville, it was had.
Slaves. It's 100. The church is 158 years old.
Wow.
And it had gone down until he came there, and when the pastor took sick, and the pastor retired, and when he retired, he became pastor, and the rest is history.
What year? Let's talk about this here, because Michael is such a, especially for some of those young people that goes out there to Madison, man. I got a lot of young people that keep up with me, Madison Marlins.
Well, when he first went out there, he told the people, don't sell the property, because he had seen the plans what was getting ready to happen out there. And so now the blacks sold the property. Now Tigner's gone out there with me. Now they can't live out there. Most of the Dallas Cowboys, the Mavericks, and the Stars, they all live out there.
Wow. Now you hear that? Some of you Cowboy fans.
He told them, Pastor, don't sell this property because I see what's getting ready to happen.
Mm-hmm. But now this church, and we see this today as we look at Third Ward. A lot of people moved out of Third Ward, wish they can come back to Third Ward, but the property value is so high they can't afford to come back.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so this is the same kind of criteria that your son was trying to tell them, but they didn't have the sense enough to listen to him.
Well, his best friend in college.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that at TCU or Baylor?
At Baylor. His best friend, you all know. So I will be a Kansas City Chief fan the rest of my life, because Lamar Hunt Jr. is my son's best friend. So he asked him what did they need for the area. He has a 365 unit, and I'll show it to you in a minute. That's called Pioneer Place, of not assisted living. What do you call it? Independent living.
Okay, now let's just slow this down 1 second, because this is some valuable history. Your son,
and the Hunt brothers.
but your son's name is Michael?
Yeah, Michael Evans.
Michael Evans. Your son, Michael Evans, is a good friend of Lamar Hunt's son, who owned the Kansas City Chief.
The brothers, the Hunt brothers.
The whole Hunt's family.
Right.
Because see one thing about people when they get that kind of money or that kind of clout and that kind of DNA roots, they all come in as a family. You don't meet one without meeting them all.
Right. That's right.
That's the way they roll. I hate to say it.
I think I did. I told Pastor when they gave him the first $25 million to start on that place, and because he said his church had grown, so he built a gym for them to worship in. He said because he wanted that housing instead of a big church right there. They're getting ready to build a facility. They've already broken ground for the new facility, but they have done what they said that they were going to do as far as that concerned. On the other side of the town, they're now adding 870 new affordable houses for people who can't afford to live out there.
And you talk about the Hunt family, and I can't help but to recognize it too, because a lot of people don't realize the Hunt family started in Dallas. The Hunt tomatoes and ketchup and all of that. Right. Their family came from Dallas.
Okay.
That's where the roots. And I was so blessed, Pastor and Coach and Ronnie, to work for Mr. Bud Adams when they first started the AFL League over there at Jefferson Stadium. So I was around people like Mr. George Blanda and Charlie Toller and Charlie Hennigan. So well at that time the only black player they had there was Big John White from TSU.
Yeah. John White.
Yeah, that was the only black player they had, and George Blanda would not throw the ball to him at all. So well then just to see and then just to see me working as a water boy for that Jefferson Stadium and the Hunt family. I mean the Adams family, because we work with all the visiting teams, and to see that in that AFL only 3 survived. The rest of them couldn't hang, and that was Mr. Hunt who started the league. And it was so bad because Mr. Hunt's father was still living. Lamar Hunt's father was still living.
Okay.
And they asked him because Mr. Hunt wanted to buy the Cowboys and they didn't want to sell it to him. That's why he started his own league. And and to see that they asked Lamar Hunt's dad at that time was still living. They asked him, say, your son, we're talking about 1960. He asked his father, they say, your son lost $100 million trying to form his own football league. And Mr. Hunt, the father, told the newspaper and the TV reporter, say, if that's all he lost, he got another 100 years to live. That's all I got to say. That just letting you know.
That's right, boy.
And to see, that's why they named this trophy Lamar Hunt.
Yeah.
After him, because it was him who started this AFL and made the NFL merge with them. Because if the AFL would have won them first 2 Super Bowls, it wouldn't be no NFL. It'd be called the AFL.
That's right. The major.
That's right.
Had major winners.
That's right.
Major winners. That's right.
That's why they got that trophy named after Vince Lombardi, because he saved the NFL.
Yeah.
Man.
One other.
Bully.
That's why because it was his Green Bay Packers.
That's right.
Yeah, one other thing I forgot to tell you is that he was the president of the Baptist General Convention of Texas, which he was over 5,300 churches.
Now we're talking about Mr. Michael Evans, a graduate of Madison.
For being
Okay, now we're talking about Pastor Michael Evans now, your son. Now, what year did he come out of Madison again?
84.
In 1984. For some of you people out there that's coming out of Madison, I want y'all to look at the video of Mr. Michael Evans, who is now the mayor of a predominantly white, rich neighborhood outside of Dallas called Mansville, Texas. Is that right?
That's right.
And to see how this young man, father, was raised up in Sunnyside, and he was raised up at Madison, and part of the Madison and Dick Darling roots of DNA. And to see how well he have not only prospered with the Lord, but also prospered in life. And to see the closeness and the friendship that him and the Hunts family. So some of you people who want to know about the Hunts family, that's the people who own the Kansas City Chiefs. And to see that all of this is part of the history of our history. And and we say a lot of things because Reverend Dixon didn't know a lot of things that we educating him on.
That's right. That's right.
And we see this here every day. And to know that not only Michael not only opened up the doors for young blacks as far as ministers being able to go into politics and to help the community. Still talk to the community, start helping the community. And the only way you can start helping is to start getting involved. And the only way you can get involved is to get with the politician or be a politician. Like they say, if you can't beat them, you join them. And and I see this, and I thank you, Ronnie, for all of this history, man.
I appreciate you.
And to know that you and your wife, man, have did one tremendous job in raising y'all kids to be successful, man. Because ain't too many black men and women can say, this is what my son do, other than playing football or basketball or baseball, all this old sports thing. Ain't too many people that can sit down and look at your kid the way you and your wife can look at y'all son.
Let me say one more thing.
You can say whatever you want.
2 people, of course they're in my life, but James Tigner, Dr. Alexander sent James Tigner over to Worthing to help me, he and a couple other guys, and I had sense enough to listen. I never would have become a vice principal if it wasn't for Don Dixon, because he's the one who recommended me for the job at Pershing.
About that.
Yeah, for the job at Pershing. You looking at me? I never would have been there.
Wow.
But that was God's plan.
That's right.
Because the interview lasted 2 minutes.
That's right.
And Chuck Cunningham, who ended up working for my brother, for my son in Mansfield. Yeah.
That's God's working, man, and we in the house of the Lord. You see how God working at this? Your God is good.
And Chuck hired me. All he did was ask me my name and a few other things. And then he said, well, look, I need you to work tomorrow. He said, because Don has already interviewed for you.
Oh, wow. Man, that's it, man. Ronnie, I really appreciate some of this history, man. And y'all, here it is. I just want to get one good shot of all of us together, man.